Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to be doing a special selection today, which is one of you tell me exactly what you want me to check out, and I do it because that's awesome. If you have your own song you'd like to submit for special selection, you can find a link to do so in the description below. Today's comes at us from Autumn Sphere, says Fall of the Leaf, more like a situation. Both songs, since we also checked out Fall of the Leaf yesterday, come from their fourth album. They're an amazing Finnish melancholic melodic rock metal group. Alright, let's dig into this. This is Fall of the Leaf, more like a situation. Let's see what they're bringing to the table today. I love that really strong bass presence, very bouncy idea. So they're running with this little bouncy guitar idea. Bit of aggressive vocals over it. Interesting sort of contrast there. Really interesting listening to them take this one idea and modulate it. This is the third time we've heard this melody in a different context. And those really clean tom rolls behind it. Yeah, the strings in the background are a nice augmentation to that little melody that our guitar had. Interesting little moment. Like the song wanted to interesting. Another modification of this style, of this line. Now we got one with heavy reverb. We've brought it up, like a third, a fifth? That little bit of grit on top of this brighter sound underneath is such a good contrast. I'm glad they keep digging into that. gallop in there to give it some intensity, a small variation in this idea. I love the cymbals right here. All right. Yeah, this it kind of falls in line with what I talked about yesterday, right? How they are an extremely competent like radio rock band right here. And they do a phenomenal job at crafting that style of music in an expertly created fashion. I called them in iterative bands where they take a style that's already established and continue to refine it and perfect it. And I think this song, once again, would be something that I could hear on, a local radio station. It has the polish, it has the vibe, it has the sound. Um, it's just very well done. What I love about this one more so than yesterday's Pillar of the Sun is that I can feel a little bit more of their style put on, the radio rock format. This has some elements of it that are a bit different, that showcase uh, more of their compositional styles and techniques, and maybe even some influences that I didn't quite hear yesterday. So let's dive into some of this and see what's going on. The song starts out, and this is a very cool thing. Not the Okay, it's cool that the song started. No, it's very cool. Is here at the beginning though is we get our introductory guitar line, that do 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 or whatever it was. I'm not a singer. I'm not on pitch. Whatever. Moving on. That core idea is presented here. It continues on into our verse. It gets modified into a heavier tone with chords when we move into the chorus, and whatever comes after the chorus, I don't know what that was. Maybe a post-chorus or pre-verse. There was a small moment between our chorus and our second verse where we went back to the single notes, but they still had that sharp, distorted bite on them, and they were very short and articulated. Bump, 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 bump. That kind of idea. And so this was our third different style of hearing this same line, and it continued on. The bridge introduced its own timbre and guitar tone that was associated with the same line. I don't think there is a single moment in the song other than the washy toilet bowl section. I don't know what to call it. The guitars got very compressed and distorted and pushed out to the sides. We'll get there when we get there, but that's the section. Um, I think that's the only moment that I didn't hear one. Oh, and there was a little guitar lick at the end of our bridge where this line wasn't displayed. But otherwise, I'm pretty sure this line appears in every other section of the track in some way or another. It's very interesting how they decided to take one concept and really run with it. Much like yesterday, I spoke about how the song just kind of runs together, especially the verse and the chorus of Pillar of the Sun, where I found it difficult to differentiate between the two. They were just that similar. And once again, I'm hearing this similarity. There is a larger difference, I'd say. For me, sonically, I can easily tell apart the verse and the chorus in this track, but the fact that there is still a melodic idea that is retained across almost every part of this song makes me wonder if this is a recurring theme for their compositional style. We're now 2 for 2, which I know 2 is not a very large data set, but we're still at 100% of songs that I've heard from them that have a consistent quality throughout their songs. It's an interesting way to go about writing music, but it works. Particularly here, though, where they, instead of just retaining the same sound from start to finish, we refine it. We change it, we embellish it, we create variation on it. So we have a core musical idea, but it is not a core sonic idea. The way that it sounds changes over time, and I really like that. Anyways, though, other than that guitar bit, we have a pretty standard drummer just kind of sitting in the pocket. We have our vocals over top it all. We have a very pronounced punctuated bass that I really love its position here, both in this verse and specifically in the chorus. When we get there, the bass seems to have the purpose of taking whatever the guitar is doing and creating the accents. So in the chorus, for instance, instead of the do 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 do, which is what the drums are doing, I mean what the guitars are doing, we're gonna punctuate two of those hits. Bum 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 bum, and get those accented hits. And there's also a second guitar, I think, that's doing hits on those as well in the chorus, but the bass is really punching through, and we hear a lot of that punch also in the verse. I can't quite remember what the bass was doing during the verse, but it was prominent, it was punchy, it cut through everything, and it was doing something alongside the guitar. I just can't remember exactly what the idea was, but yeah, I absolutely love the bass work here. It doesn't really get a chance to do its own thing, unfortunately, but it is a strong component of the song in ways that allows it to take the core idea, which is something we're going to be hearing throughout the entire song, and accentuate it in different ways that allow the rhythmic component of that core rhythm or core melody to change up over time as well. So we're not only just getting timbre changes in our guitar line that's playing it, but we're also getting rhythmic changes based on how our foundational elements are interacting with that core constant eighth note idea. And the vocals, once again, very similar to yesterday. Same sort of range, same sort of style, which makes sense. It's the same album. It's going to have a similar vibe to it all. Once again, though, I couldn't pick out any syllables, and I wonder if this is in Finnish? Yeah, this is a Finnish group. Yeah, if this is just not in English. I don't, whoops, wrong one. I don't know. It's very possible. I didn't know that they were a Finnish group yesterday. So that could definitely be why I had a difficult time picking out syllables, because not my language. So yeah, that's our verse. Our chorus, like I mentioned, doesn't really change much of that. Our drums continue to sit in the pocket. Our lead melody continues to exist the way it does. Our bass changes its rhythmic flow, but retains its role. And we do get a second guitar coming in, primarily throwing down chords to aid in the bass's accented hits and amplify them as well. The vocals continue doing what they're doing. So yeah, that's pretty much the chorus there. And it's the post chorus, and it's the next verse, and it's the chorus, and this just sort of repeats. For me, the real interesting thing in this entire section was thinking to myself, what are they going to do with this moving eighth note line in the next section? You know, there are some really nice embellishments. I pointed them out during the reaction. I really enjoyed some of that, but for the most part, much like yesterday, this kind of does follow the radio rock format of not really drawing outside the lines too much, not really incorporating anything, progressive or technical. It's really about crafting that overall vibe and sitting within it. And much like I said yesterday, and how I will talk about most bands that don't go for anything technical or deep, that is perfectly fine. This type of music has, it doesn't need to legitimize itself. It doesn't need to prove that it should exist. All music is awesome. No point in this song did I think, man, I'd rather be listening to something else. The only reason I bring it up is because my job when I listen to music in this context is to dig into the nitty gritty, and it's just, I don't really have much nitty gritty to dig into here. But this is certainly a track that I wouldn't mind listening to casually. Just throw on the headphones and let it play. And just really enjoy the vibe of it rather than trying to dig into things and figure out what they're doing. Now, this is where things get interesting. There is a bridge here, and I don't quite understand how it works. There's a bit of structural things going on here that I'm not entirely aware of. Some of it I think is just that the sections can bleed together. It really is the lead guitar, their tone of how they're playing this moving eighth note line that informs me of what section we're in, because a lot of the other instruments are just kind of doing the same thing they were in the previous section. There is something going on with this bridge, and I think even me calling it a bridge confuses me a little bit because it comes back at the end as well. And we actually see it twice. Um, but we have a back and forth here between our verse sound, I think, well, at least our lead guitar is doing what they did in the verse. We do that for a couple of bars, and then we do this washed out sound where the guitars move to constant eighth note playing, both of them doing harmonized ideas that are different than the melody line that we've heard this entire time. They get hard pushed out to the sides. I mean, the guitars are already panned, but they're panned close to me, and their position gets pushed out further. Then they also get hyper compressed, which is what makes them feel smaller. And they also have a waviness applied to them, and I don't know what that is specifically. I don't know the name of that effect, but yeah, they get pushed out. The drums and bass get given heavy presence in the center channel, as well as our vocals, and there's just a lot of space between what's here and what's out there, and it just feels empty, but also psychedelic at the same time, while also bringing in a very aggressive vocal style. We bring in a lot of that grit and natural compression. Um, and it's a very interesting section that I thought was going to go somewhere. And we did that for 2 bars and then returned back to the typical mix and then did 2 bars of this washed out mix and then brought it back in and just kept going. What's interesting about this most to me is that a lot of the song is bright. There's not a lot of darkness in the overall sonic qualities. I'm not going to say that it's lacking bass or anything darker, but it is a bit treble heavy, and musically, as far as chords and melody go, it really is kind of going for just a bright rock drive. There's nothing in here that's sad or angry. It's just a driving rock track. Except for this moment. There is a darkness present here, and we can only feel it when the instruments get pushed out and there's all this space. It begins to have a bit of aggression and bite to it and introduces a bit of an eeriness. And then it's just gone. And then it comes back again, and then it's gone. And then we just kind of forget about it. And I don't know specifically what it's supposed to be doing. Maybe when we get into the lyrics, things will make a bit more sense there, but to me, it's a very strange section. I like it musically. In isolation, it's very neat. Utilizing all these techniques in the production side of things to rearrange the song, basically, is very cool. It's almost like you have a complete puzzle in front of you, and then you grab the puzzle and throw it in the air, and the pieces go everywhere. And sometimes you'll have a clutter over here and a clutter over here, and it's just where it was at a point where it was perfectly placed spatially. There's now pockets of puzzle pieces, and there's some empty spaces on your table as well. That's kind of what it feels like, and then it comes back together, and then it gets ripped apart and then put back together. It's a very interesting micro narrative there, I suppose, but I don't understand how it fits in the larger ideas, and the drastic tonal shift there feels very out of place retrospectively. It was very cool at the moment, but trying to think about its purpose right now, it does, it comes out of nowhere, and it doesn't really connect to much else. So, like I said, maybe there's something in the lyrics that might address that for me, but right now I'm a little confused about its purpose. And that's everything in the track. We sort of jump between these three modes of our melody line, and the accompanying parts that go with them. They retain their roles across all these sections, and then we have our ripped apart and put back together moment. But there is one more thing I want to talk about, and that's contrasting ideas or contrasting timbres. I had mentioned that a lot of the track has just a bright rock drive to it, but the vocals occasionally, I mean, half the time maybe they stick with their clean vocal style, but there are many moments in this track when we kind of dip into a bit more of an aggressive, compressed clean. I don't want to call it a growl, but it does get a little bit of that grit and compression in it. And I think it sounds particularly interesting against the brightness in the rest of the song. It is like this hidden darkness that tries to pop out every once in a while. But even just aside from that narrative idea, the storytelling of this contrast, just the contrast itself sounds nice. I don't remember if I talked about this yesterday or if it even popped up yesterday, but there is a really nice combination there of timbres when you have that brighter guitar line showing up and playing against this grittier vocal style. And I'm talking about these specific timbres in general. I mean these specific timbres in general. Yeah, I mean there's also really nice things about layering contrasting timbres like that. But here specifically, I do really like the way his voice, and when he dirties it up a little bit, lines up with that really bright, um, energetic guitar tone. It's just a really nice combination. I did say that was the last thing, but there is one more I want to talk about real quick. At the end of the bridge, we had a little bit of a guitar duet, and it was just a simple. I think it was these groupings of 3/8 notes, like do 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 something like that. I thought it was very cool. I love listening to these guitars play together. I think their two timbres, their two guitar tones sound great when they're harmonizing with each other. It also introduced harmony, which isn't something we've really heard at all in the track. It's all about this core guitar line being played by a single guitar and everybody else playing around it, instead of playing with it. So we don't have any moments of wider melodic movement in this song, and it was a really nice contrast. It brought a moment of unity, but it was so short lived. I think they did that little line twice and then just went back to the chorus out of nowhere. It didn't really flow very well. It's the only moment that I think had poor flow because it felt like the duet was moving in a specific direction, and instead of retaining that energy and molding it into what would, what it was aiming for, what it was pointing towards, it just said, well, let's put the chorus back here. And it just went straight into that, and it didn't flow very well. Although part of that could also have just been my initial shock and disappointment that we started to hear something that I really enjoyed and they decided to move away from it, which is a criticism I had yesterday as well. And like I mentioned, not every song needs to have, interesting, wild, shredding guitar work. But after listening to this track and the last one, the guitarists have chops. And like I mentioned yesterday, songs call for different levels of musicianship, and obviously the music that they want to create isn't one where there's a lot of guitar shredding. They are humble and playing exactly what their songs call for, and I have huge admiration for that. But I also really wish there was just a bit more complexity. I don't want them to go full on prog and make 7-minute songs of wildly different sections. They can keep doing what they're doing. Just I really love those little embellishing moments and wish they happened more often. And if they're not going to go for the embellishing moments, which I think we had two of them yesterday, and one moment in this track where we had a nice guitar riff to punctuate the end of a phrase, when you have a duet, just lean into it. Don't just do it for 8 bars, make it 16. See where it takes you. Show me some of your melodic writing, right? I think that's just my big frustration with this band, is that I feel like they're capable of so much more without sacrificing their core sound. And they always teeter on the edge of moving into what I think would make it great rather than good, and they stop. And again, like I said yesterday, I don't expect them to change. They should make music for themselves, and if they really enjoy this music that they're making, keep doing it. Don't take my criticism as advice. Take it as it is, what it is. Things that would make me happy. One single listener who had not heard of your band until today, these are things that would make me enjoy your music more. That's not something, that's not advice that everybody should take. In fact, I'd say that's not advice that most people should take. But that's what I do on here. I point out the cool things that are happening, and I talk about the things that didn't work so well for me. And that's the thing with this band so far for me, is that they teeter on greatness and they stop right at the edge. So yeah, let's dig into some lyrics here. See what's going on. This is not a lot of lyrics at all. Is there just a lot of repeated lines here? Is this even the same song? Anyways, which one of these are pieces of me? The entire street is scattered with me. What the hell was I thinking? As if I would not get my ass whooped black and blue by singing these things out loud. A break in the clouds, a pitiful excuse for a go signal. No one really wants anything different, so just let me get my stuff together, gather my limbs, broken glass and teeth, spit the metal out of my mouth and get real. No, this is definitely not a problem, more like a situation. Just let me walk away from here as far as possible from the Mercury Street. That's it. This song had verse, chorus, lyrics over the bridge, back to the chorus, back to another bridge with lyrics over it, and this is all that's said somehow. Anyways, I think it's very straightforward. This person uh, thought they saw an excuse to dig into something, to begin an altercation. He says it was a break in the clouds that was a pitiful excuse for a go signal, but honestly, if you're that ready to start a fight, any little thing could be what sets you off. And so I think the break in the clouds is more of a metaphorical thing than an actual one, than a literal one. Anyways, they started this fight, and things did not turn out well. Metaphorically speaking, says that there are pieces scattered all over the street of him. What was he even thinking? As if he wasn't going to be attacked by saying the things that he did. He says that people don't want things that are different. So maybe he's a revolutionary, shouting things in the street that would hopefully change things for the better, I would hope. And instead, he got attacked. He says, just let me get everything, and I'll leave. But he says this isn't a problem. This is just a situation. Huh. Yeah, I didn't feel any of that in the song. To me, there is humbleness and aggravation in here. It's clear that our narrator wants change, and when they fought for that change verbally, they were physically assaulted. They thought they were ready to take this on, even if it came to physical altercation, and they could not. So they have been humbled a little bit, and maybe they feel like they've taken a step back in their goals, but they're not defeated. He says this is not a problem, this is just a situation. But there definitely seems to be a lot of angst about this. This was supposed to be the tipping point, it feels like. We had a go signal, we went and tried to make change to start revolution, and instead we got pushed back. We'll do better next time, is kind of the vibe I'm getting. I don't feel any of those feelings in the music, which is fine. Like I've said many times, the music does not always need to reflect the themes of the lyrics. Sometimes the dissonance is the purpose of it, and sometimes it's just music and lyrics created in isolation that are pushed together, which is what happens a lot in radio rock style music. But at least for me, this is another situation where I think the song would be better if there was some sort of resonance, whether it was contrast or amplified. The fact that they just feel so divorced from each other for no reason outside of the fact that this is the music they like to make and the singer just wanted to sing about this, it feels once again like a missed opportunity. But I mean, as usual, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think of Follow the Leafs more like a situation. If you enjoyed it or not, anything that stood out to you, anything you'd like to add on to my analysis or correct me on, let me know. Above the comment section is a description box, and in there is a link for Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. Has links for everything related to the channel. You can pick up merch, follow me on Discord, join the Discord, follow me on Twitter, support the channel through Patreon, submit special selections, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. All right, we'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, as usual. We're going to listen to our penultimate folk track and wrap up our special selections for the week. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.